finger at the judiciary as the weak link in the war against corruption. The president says only convictions will serve as an indicator that the war on corruption is being won. But as Tim Taigoin reports, Chief Justice David Maraga has always insisted that convictions will be based on evidence and the law.
My fourth intent, fellow Kenyans, speaks to the issue of corruption. Fellow Kenyans, I want to renew my pledge to you on this fight. I will not turn to the left or right. I will not soft pedal or back pedal, nor be intimidated. I will make no covenants with evildoers, neither will I show mercy to those who rig our markets in order to enrich themselves. As we soldier on in this fight, I today seek the indulgence of our judiciary. And I do so because I strongly believe that no administration in the history of this country has prosecuted corruption cases the way I have done. From ministers to governors, senior government officers, procurement officers, I have been on the front line. And since I respect the principle of separation of powers, I have no power of convicting the accused. We have done our part, and I will continue to do so. Now the judiciary should give us convictions as an indication that we are winning this war.
Harriet Chagai, who is the LSK vice president here with us. I mean, when you hear that coming from the president, he has a point. What are your thoughts on that?
The president has a point, and a good point, because when it comes to the fight against corruption, it has to start from the top. But let us look at what impairs this particular fight. One, there are many factors. Many factors, and let us start with the whole wheels of justice and how it rolls out. Number one, investigations must be upped. If we don't do proper investigations, definitely the cases will fail. We have also to prosecute these cases with the dignity, with the most intelligence, with the brilliance that it deserves. So all these factors will culminate into the final decisions that are going to be put across by the courts. On top of that, corruption within the court system as well. We cannot falter the fact that some of these cases are not going through the full cycle simply because at any given point they were interfered with. The judiciary has to be facilitated. It's important. As we sit right now, judges are highly constrained. We have very few judges. You know, currently as we speak, we need to have the appointments of these judges cutting across board so that these cases can be fast-tracked. You know, they are taking too long. The question is why?
One will ask, what will it take for this shaky relationship between the executive and the judiciary to finally be amended so we can all move forward as a country?
It's simple. Respecting each other's space. It's very simple. We need to allow the judiciary to do its work.
Executive isn't allowing that?
Yes, I would say yes, because currently as we speak, we have budgetary allocation issues. When we look at the statistics put in place in case of the kind of cases we have in court, I can assure you the number one cases, the majority of cases in court right now is defilement. Are you aware of that? This is serious. It means the moral fabric of this country is completely tainted. Now, when we want to look at the access to these courts, how will we take the courts closer to the common mwananchi? Taking note, a majority of Kenyans are poor. The essence of us having courts, at least in every other county, for us to expand the judicial process, for us to have more resources to deal with the kind of cases that we have, was purely to take justice closer to the people. We can only do this, we can only be able to deliver if we have proper budgetary allocations.
But to what extent does the budgetary allocation affect how judiciary is able to go about its business? To what extent?
A lot, because the administrative costs, you know, the recurrent expenditure, you know, if a judicial officer, and look at it this way, and the way we are constrained in terms of expensing judicial process, you have judges who literally have to write court proceedings. How many hearings will you undertake within a day? Look at the cost list at any particular time in any particular court.
But judiciary has been going digital for years now.
But the digital process is about money. It's about money. It's all about money. And let us try and even compare with international courts. Let's say the US or the UK, you know, they are so digitalized that if you have to appear before that court, you are given time allocation. Your hearing will be at 12. And at 12 you must bear, and you'll be told it will take exactly 30 minutes. And after the 30 minutes, close up, go. You find that when it comes to issues of production of reports, by a click of a button. Why? Because it was recorded online, and everybody can actually check and go into the e-platforms and check how the court proceedings are going on.
Right.
So even the owners of the case, the litigants, the accused persons are privy to what is going on. Currently, as we speak, we are still living in the eras of the 18th century. You know, we are not yet there. We need to be able to digitalize the court proceedings, the court processes.
Right. We
We also need to be able to have proper resources in terms of human resource to be able to serve. We also need to be able to undertake and have a multi-sectoral agency that agrees and takes it upon themselves to ensure that whenever they take up a case, that case is solid.
Caroline, how would this tit for tat between the executive and the judiciary end up affecting Uhuru's legacy? Is he aware of how deep that will affect his legacy?
Okay, I don't know about the awareness bit, but let me say this. The president in his speech talked about how his actions have acted as a deterrent to corrupt practices, and it could be true. But I think the converse can also be said, that because of that fear of taking action in the executive, you could probably start seeing a lot of paralysis. People don't want to take decisions because you don't want to be held accountable in future or presently for actions that you take. But having said that, I think the Constitution is very clear on a fair administrative process.
Yes.
Whether for those accused, be it a governor, be it a CS, be it procurement officer, as he said. And so the question for me is, how are we facilitating the judicial process so that from the investigations to the prosecutions to the hearings, we get to the point that we all yearn for, and which is a conviction.
Yes.
And I think for us from the civil society, we've literally and consistently said that until there's a conviction of these senior people that are hounded out of office every other day, then it remains a talk.
But the fact that Kenyans haven't seen that conviction...
that then keeps raising doubts about the commitment to the fight against corruption. And so the question remains, you said it yourself, the CJ has been quoted as saying, until the investigations and the prosecutory process it meets the threshold of convictions, they are not going to convict just for the sake of a conviction. And so it then is on the relevant agencies, whether it's investigative agencies, the prosecutorial agencies, the EACC, to then have watertight cases that when they go to court, that can be met. Two, on the issue of the judiciary, I mean, we had unprecedented times when the CJ himself had to come out and talk about again, that word, humiliation, that he's undergoing from the other side. And so until there's either a repair of that relation, which, in my view, if we respected the separation of powers which the president spoke about and allowed the judiciary to do its work,
yes,
the budgetary allocations, the resources required, the issue of the judges that are yet to be confirmed,
yes,
the personnel, judges, the personnel, the financial, the courts, and then give the courts the watertight cases, then we could have that conversation.
Right. David, the fact that Kenyans haven't seen any convictions happening, should they continue to put their confidence on this one graft on judiciary?
Let me tell you, I agree with the President Kenyatta to the extent that he becomes the first president to boldly take on corruption. And I have said here time upon number that has indeed create a deterrence. When I listened to him yesterday, I said he must be watching me a lot on TV. But I think we need to agree that delivering justice it's a multi-tier and a multi-pronged thing. If the investigators do a shoddy job, if you are going to investigate a scene of crime and find someone has been shot dead, and what you deliver to the DPP is a gun that does not match the bullet, and the DPP shows up in front of court, the court will just try to get a verification, and when it finds that the bullet did not come from that gun, that case is closed. So regardless of whether it was known almost obviously and in camera that you shot the person.
So what I'm hearing is the evidence.
So that is one bit. So previously, the Akashas got off the hook because the previous investigative and prosecutorial teams were doing Kenya a disservice, which President Kenyatta addressed by getting robust, zealous, reformist young people, Kinoti and Haji. That's been good. But, they too cannot preside over all cases. They rely on the workers that they have to do their jobs honestly, to be loyal to country than to self, to render themselves with utmost zeal just as their bosses. So when they don't, if the lower tier has corruption infested in it, that needs to be addressed. But when you move from there and come to the judiciary, you will not absolve judiciary of entire blame. We know of governors who are currently serving in office when it is a requisition of a governor to have a degree. And a judge in court argued and looked at Kenyans and said, he may not have that degree, but he renders his services as though he has one. And we want that to fly by. So you will blame the way investigations are being done, but the judiciary has its fair share of the blame to have. But the presidency needs to know that in the long drawn-out battle, you can't win against the judiciary. It's in his interest that he leaves behind a judicial system that works for the nation and equips it fully. The judiciary, William Mutunga started a program where there were 4x4 cars that would go to the hinterlands that are not accessible so that magistrates could go listen to cases on site, determine them on site. That's been withdrawn. The Court of Appeal in Kisumu, Nyeri, and which one again? The three have been closed. Because they said we are now strained. What does that impact? How does that impact on the citizenry? The people in Mombasa have to come to Nairobi to listen, to have their case listened to. The people from Kisumu have to come. The pressure piles on the judges in Nairobi. They end up with a cost list of rulings to make or determinations to make that run into years. Now, instead of expediting justice, you delay justice, and justice delayed is justice denied.
Wow. Dr. Umo, even as you jump into this conversation, what I'm hearing from this conversation is evidence, evidence, evidence. Akash, how do you explain to Kenyans how it is that the brothers of the Akasha brothers, for example, also the individuals who were involved in the Chicken Gate scandal have already served their own sentence in their own country? So if it's a matter of evidence, how come that evidence has worked in another court of law, but here in Kenya, it is not substantial enough?
I wanted to bring a slightly different angle. So much of corruption happens in the executive. And so the president is right in one way, that, the judiciary should do much more, but also I think he cannot completely absolve himself of blame and start saying that we've done everything. I think deterring corruption starts with the right choice. The right choice of the candidates who have the right competencies, but also the right values to work for Kenyans. And that is a prerogative that is within the executive, at the county governments and at the national government. So we must all agree that we are giving the judiciary a bad name for our own bad manners. Because we want to create a system where we continue with our own bad manners. We have a cabinet secretary who does wrong procurement, money is lost, Kenyans don't get services. 2 years later, we want to give the judiciary the work. I have dealt with government a lot because of negotiating for workers. It is very difficult to get information from government. I actually sympathize with the investigative authorities that are supposed to go into a ministry and prove
that funds were stolen.
That funds were stolen.
Right.
Because also we have a culture of impunity within government where information is not transparent. And also we have a culture within government where government is not run within government. And we've seen it in places like Ministry of Health, for example, where you have a program that is running, but within the people that are employed in that system, they have absolutely no idea, no information, no documents. So you just see things happening. So you see equipment being installed in hospitals, and we've seen this, for example, in the MES, and even the Senate questioning, where are the documents? No one has the documents. So government is being run, but outside of government. So you don't know this dungeon where there is this evidence. So you can imagine if the DPP or the DCI were to go to, for example, a ministry like Ministry of Health and try to demand for documents, no one would produce them because even the person in charge of that docket does not have them. And you can imagine this is the evidence that they will rely on in court to convict someone of wrongdoing. So I think the president needs to help the judiciary much more, and I also believe that we cannot go on a war with the judiciary and generally workers and still hope to win. So I think that there's a bigger problem in the country than just the judiciary. And just finishing on that, borrowing from our own observation in labor matters, for example, we only have one labor judge in Kisumu that serves the whole of Bungoma, Kakamega, Busia, Migori, all that way, and then Kisii, one person. And sometimes we have a lot of cases with either private companies or also with governments, a lot, where we find a county government is not making the decisions, and this matter ends up in court for something that would not have ended up in court. So we pile up all these bad manners, and then we give the judiciary a bad name for our own bad manners.
Right.
And this is exactly the thing. If you look at Nyeri also, there's only one labor judge from Laikipia, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, all the way to Nyandarua and Muranga. So one person wants to tackle all these cases, from the tea farms to the coffee farms to the private companies to the maids that are having domestic work issues to the doctors to the nurses to everyone. One judge.
Okay.
And then we come and say that the judiciary is not acting fast.
Right. I'm glad we have Harriet here.
That is for me my own experience with the judiciary, and I'm not supporting the bad manners of judiciary. There's also corruption within the judiciary. There's also laxity within the judiciary. And sometimes they are taking advantage of the fact that they are not well facilitated, they are not well financed.
Give excuses.
To give excuses. And this is also in all sectors. Even in the health sector, sometimes people take excuses of the fact that, okay, we are not well equipped, we are not well facilitated, not to do the right thing. But I think we then need to have a open conversation. And I believe the president is right, but he needs to be a bit more honest with the executive itself.
Yes, and I'm glad we have Harriet here. Harriet, Daktari has said something important here. If judiciary was to put up a mirror and look at itself genuinely, what more can judiciary do?
In fact, I would wish to tweak that and say, let us challenge ourselves. Let us give the judiciary everything that they want.
Which is what?
The money that they want, the resources in terms of personnel, facilitate them. Let us give them everything.
But can you also admit there are certain things that judiciary is also doing wrong?
Yes. But once we give each and every tool that they need to operationalize and dispense or actualize their strategic plan as they have planned, then let us sit back and ask them, my friend, you said if we give you all the money, if we facilitate you to this extent, you will deliver. I think we have had this discussion for a very long time. It's 2 years discussing about judiciary, allocation of budgets, facilitation of judiciary, corruption cases. Judiciary has stated what they need for them to fast track the cases, for them to be able to perform. For me, I think let us now challenge ourselves, the executive itself. Let us give judiciary what they want. Number one, the judiciary, the judiciary fund needs to be now allocated to them, and it's an easy issue. Just open an account with Treasury and put all the money there and allow judiciary to do its work. Number two, let us give them all the money they want, the budget. You know, let us give them all the judges and magistrates they want. Let us take them, let us allow them to go to the e-platform. Then let us come back.
Such an ideal situation.
No. Because we will be here again. No. We will be here again discussing the same issues.
We are not likely to achieve that.
Yeah.
I mean, in a resource-constrained country, and I'm not saying that we don't have the resources and that we are giving them enough. Of course, the judiciary is financially constrained. They are resource-constrained in terms of number of judges, in terms of number of researchers, in terms of all of this. But I also do not think that we can just throw money at the judiciary.
No. What I'm trying to say is this. This institution has identified what they need to be able to dispense of, or rather to discharge their duties, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why can't we facilitate?
Yeah, facilitate.
Why can't we facilitate that so that we will now, so that we, the next time we are seated here, we will be discussing. You are facilitated.
Okay.
It may not be reasonable for to achieve that ideal situation.
That's seventh heaven.
But it is also not reasonable that Parliament that has just about 5,000 total workers, I mean, not even 5,000, 500 or so total workers, has a budget almost thrice that of the judiciary.
I think it's priorities.
However, when the president says, for example, that the 41 judges, he has refused to swear them in because some of them have issues, integrity issues. I have asked the president, I will ask him again because I know he's watching. Mr. President, tell us the ones who have integrity issues. Return their names to JSC and swear in the ones who have no issues. It cannot be that out of 41, all of them have integrity issues. But that also says that your intelligence service failed you. They failed you by not raising this in good time to JSC. Or if they did, which they may have, then JSC just inadvertently decided that they will not honor the NIS report on these characters. So swear in the few. Make the initiative, because you're the bigger brother. But the CJ must also know that his legacy is at stake. Will he be remembered like Mutunga for institutionalizing the management of the judiciary or digitizing it? Or will he be remembered to have presided over a judiciary that was at loggerheads with the executive and also unable to deliver on its mandate?
All right, David, pause. Caroline, I'm going to come back with you and your comments because we need to take a commercial break. And
It comes back, just this one statement, it comes back to let people discharge the responsibilities for their positions.
Pause. We need to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, yesterday President Uhuru Kenyatta also talked about tit for tat. It's an all-win game. I would love to hear what our panelists have to say. But also, today we're asking you at home, are you confident of President Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet reshuffle that we saw yesterday? Are you confident in that? Could we get a bit of the feedback? Let's do that. Let's take a look at your feedback. Are you confident in President Uhuru Kenyatta's cabinet reshuffle that we saw yesterday? He was in Mombasa when he made that speech, and it wasn't just a matter of cabinet reshuffle. He talked about how 16% VAT will be slapped on certain goods, more so those ones that come from Uganda, such as the milk. Philip, good morning. You say the reshuffle and especially the sacking of Kiunjuri was long overdue. Let it serve as a lesson to others who are still in the system and are not comfortably serving in their current positions. On SMS, still able from Eldoret, you say that the country is going through hard economic times, so we need a substantive minister for finance. The former agriculture CS was shooting straight from the hip. You don't say who you are, but this is you. The president has the prerogative to hire and fire, so there is no big deal about what he has done. Let him do his work comfortably and deliver his 4-point agenda. Bernard, good morning from Mombasa. No, the president is playing politics. In as much as Kiunjuri dismally performed, the motivation of the sacking is more politically engineered. Gishuki from Narok, yes, I'm comfortable. Kiunjuri was just politicking instead of delivering. Komen, you say, indeed, the president acknowledges that leadership and integrity cannot be wished away if he is to cement his legacy. He pledged to intensify the purge on graft in order to deliver the economic kingdom, which Kenyans have been earning for long. We hope that this trajectory will be sustainable. Let's take a look at Twitter now. Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. That's your ticket into the conversation. Fantastic feedback that is coming through. Oindi Sam, you say CS Kiunjuri has now learned that politics is an unforgiving arena that blesses the winners and forgets the losers. His performance was dismal. Let him now stay in utopia. Okay, Frederick, you say, I agree with David Osiani that while democracy is good in Africa, abusing or any altercation or brushing shoulders with the incumbent president will always have repercussions. Mwangi Kiunjuri saw it coming, he would have taken action. Okay, Tom, you said the reshuffle did not come as a surprise. It is just the same politics of Tanga Tanga and Kileweke taking shape. The country is popularized with BBI politics that is skewed towards 2022. Wow. Engineer Lazaro, good morning to you. Today you're saying, I have confidence that the cabinet reshuffle will bring some discipline in the cabinet. Kiunjuri sacking is a clear indication that the president wouldn't tolerate propagandist fighting projects initiated by himself, you put BBI there, in his administration. Donald, you say there is a problem in the judiciary. Some of the judges and magistrates need to be weeded out. There's a lot of wastage and laziness in the judiciary. Sonko Andrew, good morning to you too. The reshuffle came at the right time, but the accountability belt needs to be tightened. We have seen cases of corruption within the ministries and nothing has been done before. Is the judiciary really the weak link to fighting corruption, you continue to say? I think it is time we have a handshake between Uhuru and Maraga. This divide between two arms of government is lagging the country behind, and the common mwananchi is the one suffering. My goodness, fantastic feedback coming from you, our viewers. Let's take that break.